Donald Trump won, and I am very, very afraid that he might deport my mother-in-law. She entered illegally to the country, and she lives in Street 4, number 47, apartment D, New York. That's right behind the green apartment. The gate is always open. You don't have any dogs either. It's Street 4.
Guess what they're doing in the UK? They're admitting, finally, under the guise of we're doing research, they're going to have experiments to dim the sun. Given green light by the UK government because...
What could go wrong?
It's great news for the UK because you know how they're always getting too much sun.
Yeah.
In the UK. Yeah, it's sunny old England, as they say.
We need to bog up the complexion.
How are you going to know the experiment's working? I mean, if there's one major complaint about the United Kingdom, it's that they get way too much sunshine.
Yeah.
I mean, how was Jack the Ripper supposed to sneak around and kill anybody on a bright sunny day? Am I right?
That's true. Time for day killing.
What is the raincoat company supposed to do now? Switch to London SPF? Is that what they're going to do? Come on. So, you know this is gonna. They're doing this with aluminum. You know they're spraying aluminum. We already. So there's that.
Why?
That's how they do this.
But I mean, why are they? Here's my question.
So they Kurt, they control the. By the way, this weather control thing is not, again, it's one of those things like you're saying, oh, Jimmy, come on, the vaccine's safe and effective. The weather control thing is real. Did you know that the Mahmoud Ahmadinejad went on the floor of the UN and said that they were creating famine in his country? They were controlling the weather, but it never got that never got reported in the United States, did it?
I did hear it, and I was like, "Oh, that's something stupid." But at the time, I was unaware that we have a treaty signed in the '70s to not use weather weapons. So if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have a treaty about it. There was no nuclear treaty before nukes, you know?
Scientists are planning on dimming the sun in a bid to curb global warming. Again, with this global warming, it all start. When do you start measuring global warming? They like to start in the late 1800s. We're actually in a cooling period right now. If you look, it just depends on where you start counting from. There used to be ice all the way covering all of North America. Used to be ice everywhere.
How about before you do this?
And that all went away before we started burning oil. That all went away before we started burning oil. That's how we got the Great Lakes. So this feels very much like a scam. Go ahead, Steph.
I was just going to say, how about before we start dimming the sun, why don't we just cure worldwide hunger?
Yeah, how about that?
I think would have caused more of it. Also, all the people that can't believe something could have happened with that Malaysian plane, they're planning on dimming the sun.
Yes.
What are you talking about? Look at the things you're looking at.
The UK government is set to announce funding of up to 50 million pounds of funding for sun dimming experiments in the coming weeks. Let me tell you something. They're already I'm going to cover this more on Friday. The controversial technology aims to reflect sunshine back into the atmosphere, which could help to temporarily limit rising temperatures. And it's going to screw up natural cloud formation. It's going to screw up the weather. It's screwing, but they're already doing that.
How's it going to affect plant life?
Yes. You know how plants like being sprayed with aluminum and salt? They say they're just doing it with salt. Believe me, they're spraying aluminum.
Well, I know the aluminum part of that, and they've been doing it for quite some time, by the way.
Yes.
So that they can do that global 3D mapping. That's what that layer of aluminum allows them to do, is map the entire area when they do it. And that's from a long time ago. I don't know now what they're doing. I know Dubai had those floods because they were doing this.
Your brain would have to be an innie for you to think this is a good idea.
Well, I don't think it's for the reason they're saying, just because I don't feel like that's oh, the UK has been really heating up. I don't think it really has, and it's always cloudy. So why on earth would you be doing that there? Why would you? It doesn't make sense.
It comes as the National Environment Research Council, NERC, which is one letter away from nerd, announced on April 3rd that it will invest 10 million pounds of new funding to study these solar radiation management schemes. Wow. According to Professor Mark Symes, the program director for the government's Advanced Research and Invention Funding Agency, known as ARIA, there would be a small controlled outdoor experiments on particular... They're already doing this.
Yeah.
They're already doing this. These experiments could include injecting aerosols into the atmosphere or brightening clouds to reflect the sunlight. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? And of course, this small experiment is just going to involve the entire population.
Yeah.
You know, these are the science people. These are the kind of science guys that sank Atlantis. Those kind of guys.
Do you remember they were Jimmy, they were advertising. There was some startup that was advertising doing something with mirrors just like that in space where you could order sunlight to the area you wanted. You know, like it's late at night. It was like an app they were promising with this satellite. So right away, and that was a while ago. No, I don't think they really had the tech to do that. I think that was a thing but this was from a year or two ago. So I doubt it's anything to do with climate change, but how much you want to bet you're going to be able to buy sunlight or they're going to giveth and taketh away the light when you need to grow crops if you're not doing what they want, whatever. Remember nitrogen? They had to get the nitrogen away? And it was just to take over all the
that's right.
food.
So they could take over the Dutch farms. There was too much nitrogen.
How about I turn the sun off for your stupid farm and then you sell it to me? How about that? And then
one day they can charge us for sunlight. Imagine if you I saw them bring this up on Redacted. Imagine if they you just listened to the government and you were a good little boy and you covered your property with solar panels and now they're going to dim the sun because it needs direct sunlight. It's not just any sunlight. Your solar panel needs direct sunlight. If it's cloudy, you're effed. The professor says, we will be announcing who we have given funding to in a few weeks, and when we do so, we'll be making clear when any outdoor experiments might be taking place. It's already taking place.
I think they did in California last year.
One of the missing pieces in this debate was physical data from the real world. Models can only tell us so much. I mean, the models about climate change that have proven to be wrong consistently? You mean those models?
Yeah, I don't know how they think they can model that.
We have strong requirements around the length of time experiments can run for and their reversibility, and we won't be funding the release of any toxic substances to the environment. Last year was the hottest year on record. Since when? Becoming the first year for the average temperatures to exceed the threshold of 1.5 Celsius above pre-industrial temperatures. Again, January 2025 was also the warmest on record, with an average global temperature hitting 13.23 Celsius, 1.75 Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Okay. How did they melt all that ice during the Ice Age? How hot was it for it to... How did that happen?
No. I don't have a model. I need a computer model.
The 1.5 Celsius threshold is a target established in the Paris Agreement in 2015, where a bunch of people flew private jets to the Paris so they could figure out how to fix climate change. Believe me, they're not going to outlaw private jets. You know who else is cheering this on? You know who's cheering this on? Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos from their 450-foot yachts with 6 diesel engines in them. They're also cheering this on. Yes, dim the sun.
Oh yeah. The owner of a bridal party space cock is telling you
yes
you should get less sun.
Barack Obama goes to Africa, tells people in Africa you can't have air conditioning in cars because the planet will overheat. And then he gets on a private plane flies back to his beachfront property. And then he flies to his other beachfront property in Hawaii, where he's building an illegal seawall, which they got a cutout for. Because
Nice.
seawalls erode the beach down the road. But they got it. So he's buying. Isn't it funny that people who believe in oceans rising and climate change keep flying around the world in private jets, buying beachfront property like John Kerry, like Barack Obama,
Yeah,
like
I think
Bill
they're
Gates,
reptiles, so that's
like
why,
Jeff
you know.
Bezos, like Mark Zuckerberg? Isn't that
Yeah,
interesting?
reptile people. They like
Reptile
being in the
people.
water. I mean, that kind of just proved it.
If in a world within the 1.5 Celsius threshold, believe me, they're never going to stop. They're never going to say, hey, maybe we should close the 900 military. The number one emitter of carbon as an organization in the world, guess what it is? It's the U.S. military. No one ever says, hey, maybe we should close those 900 military bases. Maybe we shouldn't blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. So the same people telling me about climate change being real are the same people urging more war, more military bases, more private jet travel, more private yacht travel, more beachfront properties, and more blowing up of the Nord Stream pipelines. I don't see a disconnect. Do you see a disconnect there at all? I see one.
I mean, not if you're run by like a secret ancient order of vampires that want to rule the night by day. Like, what is the motive here?
They're going to tackle climate change. Are you going to tackle it by closing 900 military bases and stop blowing up Nord Stream pipeline? No. Are you going to tackle it by one private jet flight emits more carbon than my car does in my lifetime?
Wait, what's
You're
that summit there?
You're going to get rid of the 450-foot yachts, which is 150 foot bigger than a football field, that use 4 giant diesel engines. You're going to get rid of that? No. But I got to have an electric stove and drive a scooter and eat bugs
Mm-hmm.
and live in a 15-minute city.
Yeah. Wait, aren't they clearing out the rainforest to make a highway?
They
just to get to this-
literally just cut down a big swath of the Amazon rainforest so they could put in a road so they could have a conference about fighting climate change.
It's private too. No one can use it who lives there.
Yep. You don't feel like a sucker? You don't feel like a sucker that they're literally clearing the Amazon rainforest so they can put in a road so they can have a conference. They can't have a conference in a city that already exists. Greenhouse. So in a world within the 1.5 Celsius threshold, experts say that many of the deadliest effects of climate change, extreme heat, food scarcity, and insect-borne diseases are reduced. Greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide are thrown into the atmosphere by human activities and are key drivers of climate change. It also greens the planet. They don't tell you that. It also greens the planet. The planet is way greener than it was 10 years ago.
You said it's going to be a desert, not way greener than when I was a kid. The forest was almost all gone.
That's right.
That's what I was told.
And now the world, the entire world is way greener. Scientists are increasingly worried that carbon dioxide levels aren't falling fast enough to prevent catastrophic global warming, they said after they get out of their private jet, after they cleared more Amazon rainforest so they could have their climate change meeting. With the collapse of ocean currents and giant ice sheets becoming a looming threat, the uncomfortable truth is that that most of the Earth's lifetime there weren't polar. The uncomfortable truth is that our current warming trajectory makes a number of such tipping points distinctively possible over the next century. This has driven increased interest in approaches that might actively cool the world in a short time frame in order to avoid these tipping points.
The tipping points, none of them happen. Look, I really don't need to be told any more about the history of jack shit because I've been alive long enough to watch them prophesy the end of the world that didn't come more times than crazy religious people ever have. They predicted the end more than Bible-beating kooks. So shut up. I don't believe you.
John Kerry was saying there's going to have ice-free summers in the Arctic. Didn't happen. He said that like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah. When he supposedly went to Antarctica to check the damage, he just didn't go to the climate thing. Instead of go to Antarctica to check the measurement of how damaging it is.
The experiments, therefore, aim to provide critical data needed to properly assess the potential of the sun dimming technology. One major area of research, which includes stratospheric aerosol injection, where tiny particles are released into the stratosphere from airplanes and reflect light back into space. They've been doing this forever. Everybody who mocked someone about chemtrails should apologize. Another potential solution is marine cloud brightening, in which boats would release sea salt particles into the sky to increase clouds' ability to reflect sunlight. You know how plants love to be covered in salt. That's good for plants. A third
idea. Salting the earth, but have you ever salted the sky?
Isn't it amazing? None of these ideas are we ban private jet travel, end war, stop blowing up Nord Stream pipelines, close down the 900 military bases. The number one emitter of carbon in the U.S. military. Nobody ever mentions doing that. Not Greta Thunberg.
Like an emergency, does it?
What's that?
Doesn't seem like an emergency, does it?
Does it?
If they're not talking about that.
No. In fact, they're all talking about even more oil. A third idea is Barack Obama bragged that they extracted more oil out of the United States when he was president than than ever before. The number one oil extraction president was President Obama. He bragged about it. A third idea is seeding Syria. Joe Biden opened up the Arctic to drilling. A third idea is seeding cirrus clouds in the upper atmosphere to allow more heat to escape into space. However, the topic of geoengineering, the deliberate large-scale manipulation of the Earth's climate system, remains controversial. You think? As some scientists argue that these techniques could have serious unintended consequences on things like food production. You think?
No. Is it okay? Could it be any worse than artificially cocking up viruses?
According to Professor Symes, no toxic substances would be released into the environment. Oh, really? They also told me that the vaccine was safe and effective.
They released that into you.
And they put that into you.
The environment.
They also told me that
body.
2 weeks to flatten the curve, that masks work. They also told me that lockdowns were great, that there was science behind social distancing. They told me all those things.
There wasn't.
No toxic substances are going to be released into the environment from the outdoor experiments alongside outdoor trials. ARIA will fund modeling studies, indoor tests, climate model. Okay. I'm going to show you something. Go to Steph for a second and let me get it.
Oh, okay, Jimmy. CC Calloway, I wonder how much extra Klaus has to pay for wormhole to mount. Oh, did I read that one already? Oh, boy. All right. It's me, 31. Thank you very much. Fighting 332. Thank you very much. Before you roll your eyes at wormholes and teleportation, just a reminder that quantum entanglement has been proven true numerous times. Agent Archer. Thank you, Agent Archer. Seba Toronto. Thank you, Seba. CC Galloway. Thank you very much. Agent Archer. Oh, I read that one. Jimmy, please ask Dr. Lawrence Krauss. Kinky. I read that one already, and I've shared it with the team. Splinkster, late 1880s, Nikola Tesla tested radio-controlled boat and torpedo. Navy now, exactly 100 years later. I tested radio-controlled torpedoes now with audio and video. What else is being suppressed? Splinkster. Thank you, Splinkster.
Lawrence Krauss?
Goo81. Thank you, Goo.
Populations all over the world.
Julius
the condensation
Patty,
trail.
thank you,
Here,
Julius.
come to me.
All right, back to Jimmy.
This is a documentary called The Dimming.
Perhaps the greatest lie ever perpetrated on populations all over the world is the condensation trail lie. What we're seeing in our skies is not condensation. It's sprayed particulate dispersions with very few exceptions.
They shouldn't be there. Jet engines burn clean. So if there's anything coming out of them, it's an additive.
They're absolutely not contrails. Contrails do not linger, dissipate, and go into cloud coverage, period, in the report.
And I kept saying to people, what is this? Because now the sky is no longer blue. It's starting to turn gray. And what I found was kind of like it was not socially acceptable. We're all going to pretend this is not really happening. And I thought, oh, this is very bad.
Most are unfamiliar with the science term called global dimming. That term refers to the amount of direct sunlight that no longer reaches the surface of the planet due to light scattering particles that are building up in the atmosphere. And although many of these particles are from industrialized pollution, the larger majority are from the ongoing climate engineering solar radiation management operations. This engine, a high bypass turbofan jet engine, this is the engine that is on all military tankers and all commercial carriers, is in essence a jet-powered fan. 90% of the air that moves through this engine is non-combusted. This engine, by design, is nearly incapable of producing any condensation trail except under rare and extreme circumstances. And again, we have film footage of aircraft flying at altitude with nozzles visible, turning on and off. That is the end of the argument. Since even before man could fly, there was an effort to try to modify the weather. We have weather modification patents going back 100 years plus.
These are historical films of what can be done with a biplane, a small biplane that carries a very small payload. And that much can be done. How much more can a fully loaded military tanker, KC-10, KC-135, C-17 Globemaster, how much more material can they put in the air? About 500 times more with a single tanker.
In regard to the condensation trail narrative, many refer back to the trails left by World War II bombers as proof that we are only seeing condensation trails in our skies. But GeoengineeringWatch.org found on military archives film footage, which we posted, of World War II B-17s at altitude, turning off a sprayed dispersion. We know that climate engineering was deployed immediately after World War II, so testing was absolutely ongoing. Clearly, these bombers were used for beta testing. Film footage proves it.
Weather was a weapon used over Vietnam. Would you expect that to be then deleted from the availability? No. To continue to expand the scientific aspects of it, to have it available in your portfolio of weapons, would be a natural process. Therefore, should you expect that it is available on demand to have the ability to modify weather? Absolutely, within this country and others.
Climate engineering is the crown jewel of the military-industrial complex. Climate engineering has been used to destabilize and topple nations all over the globe, facilitating military occupations by hostile countries like the US. We know that some of these countries are having their precipitation cut off because they have stated so on the floor of the UN, like the president of Iran stating emphatically that NATO weather modification programs were cutting off the precipitation to Iran, but US media never covered it.
We have an economic model operating globally, which is operating based on covert force. And I have very serious questions after watching the financial patterns as to whether that financial force or that force includes weather warfare.
People were coming to me, telling me about this. So because of that, I went to the government in Ottawa under Freedom of Information. There was a 40-page report, of which half the pages were completely blank, and the other half had a lot of blank outs. But there was sufficient information to tell me that, yeah, they're aware. They call it geoengineering.
One of the big problems is that when we find some new technology, we get all excited by it, by the potential benefits of that technology, and often implement it and use the technology before we have any idea of the negative effects.
Shouldn't it be considered that every breath we take is laden with highly toxic particles that are wreaking havoc in our own bodies? Particles that aren't being reported by any air quality testing systems. Any official air quality testing are looking for PM10 or PM2.5, 2.5 microns at best. The climate engineering nanoparticulates are exponentially smaller. They go virtually unreported.
These nanomaterials generate reactive oxygen species in biological materials, damage tissue, lead to advanced aging, cause cancer, causative agents of dementia. So, yeah, we might think that we're doing something positive for humanity to save our species, but we're also poisoning ourselves.
Eventually, with the team that we formed at GeoengineeringWatch.org, we were able to acquire a NOAA flying lab. We were able to test at altitude to confirm the elements that were showing up at the surface.
Our intention was to do a point-to-point sampling mission. We could see these obvious patterns that were being laid down in the sky. We were really thankful for the opportunity to be able to get up to altitude. And on the return mission, we noticed that that cloud layer had descended. And we sampled below the cloud layer, we sampled through that confluent layer and above it.
We found exactly the same elements listed in climate engineering patents, same elements we found in countless surface tests of precipitation from all over the globe. Governments all over the globe and the entire climate science community are telling the population urgently that climate engineering operations, solar radiation management operations need to be immediately deployed to try to mitigate the warming of our planet, to try to preserve what's left of its life support systems. And yet when the public, those that are awake, try to bring to the attention of academia and elected officials that we see climate engineering already being conducted in our skies all over the globe. It's already been deployed. Lab tests prove it. Film footage proves it. Documents prove it. And yet we have the continued denial from the climate science community and official agencies telling us that we're not really seeing what we're seeing in the skies. They tell us
if climate engineering were deployed, it would look exactly like what we're seeing in our skies, but then again, they tell us that we're not really seeing what we are actually seeing. The paradox is, the more the climate engineers spray the planet, destroy the ozone layer, disrupt the hydrological cycle, and increase the overall warming of the planet, the more they feel they have to ramp these programs up to try to mitigate some of the damage that these programs have done in the first place. That is the true definition of insanity.
As a society, we are like a freight train heading for a broken bridge that is just a few years away from us. And I think people don't understand the exponential increase of toxicity in the environment.
Okay, so you get the idea. We're going to have that guy on, Dane Winnington, next Wednesday. The guy from geoengineeringwatch.org. The guy who's talking in this video.
Yeah, I remember I first heard this word. I think Pasta was the first one to tell me, and I was like, what? And then you find out, no, that's all real. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, if they do that, they'd hide all kinds of stuff from you, wouldn't they?
Okay, over to Steph.
Okay. Julius Patty, Elon Mizrahi, is an anti-Zionist Jew from Israel. You should invite him on. Thank you for that recommendation. There is a feedback loop where the U.S. government gives Israel $4 billion per year. UK gives $3 billion per year. $7 billion given by the Western Empire can buy a lot of cover. Boy, grasshopper. Do you realize that we'll all blow up from Israeli nukes when Israel unleashes their Samson option, which I believe is getting closer and closer? Kinky. GU 81, the Zionist plan for Palestine since the late 1800s, and Balfour handed it to them in 1917. Holocaust was the propaganda of needing a safe place. The original woke took place in 1948.
Yeah, that's right. That's the original one.
Right? Funky. Jimmy, please have on Moses West, a retired Army Ranger and inventor of the atmospheric water generator. It produced thousands of clean, clear drinking water, and he is giving it away for free. Thank you, Funky. I will share that with the team. We'll make a note of it. Okay. GU 81, another tragedy is that the Yemeni Jews who went to Israel had their children kidnapped by Israel to be experimented on, and kids were disappeared. Go Houthis.
That's true. The Mizrahi Jews, actually, like that guy's name, they put him in like the School of the Americas where they would beat the kids and they couldn't speak. I think they spoke Aramaic or something.
Oh, all right.
And then they beat them till they spoke the new Hebrew they'd invented for Zion.
Julius Patty, I have no doubt in my mind that Jordan Peterson is addicted to something. He's losing it faster than he would have if he was trans, Julius.
Hey.
Back to Jimmy.
So